There was a famous story. The story was I don't know, it was like all over the place. It was written in Rabbi David Asher's book on Living Emunah. It was, if I'm not mistaken, I think Rabbi Yoel Gold did a thing on it, but maybe he didn't. The story that happened quite a few years ago, on Motzei Tisha B'Av, there was a rabbi and his wife that rented a house in Lakewood for the summer. And while everybody knows it already, I can see it already, who knows what I'm talking about. Look how famous the story is. I just have to say the address, and people are like, yeah, we know this. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, I will. So this rabbi lived in Lakewood, and the rabbi wakes up at 3:30 in the morning, and he wakes up with like a little bit of chest discomfort. Now he's not sure. Usually, if anybody is familiar with the healthcare field, if you have chest discomfort, it could either be like something like crazy serious, like a heart attack, or it could be something like completely the other thing, like it's just indigestion, or something like not serious at all. So he's like, I think he's spoken to his wife, like, I have a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of pain. Maybe I should call, I don't know, should we call, they decide they're going to call Hatzalah. They're going to call them, but they say, don't put your sirens on, just in case, just come check it in. So the Rebbitzin goes and says, fine, let's call Hatzalah. And she stops and be like, wait a minute, we're in Lakewood. I don't know what the number for Hatzalah is. I have no idea. She runs to the phone, she figures she doesn't know what, and she sees on the phone, speed dial 1, Hatzalah. She's like, this is unbelievable. She's renting the home. It's not her house. Renting home for the summer. She goes, she hits speed dial, she speaks to the Hatzalah guy, and the dispatcher, they tells her, listen, I don't think it's an emergency. If you have someone in the area, can you please send someone to check over my husband, has some sort of chest discomfort, no need to put on sirens, no need to make a little bit of a hectic thing, just to double check. So they said, fine, they'll place the call. 30 seconds later, there is a team of paramedics that show up at her door without sirens, and they're carrying this like big huge machine, with them, and she's like, what's going on over here? Like, Hatzalah, you figure like one guy, in a Honda Pilot, whatever it is, coming in, or Honda Odyssey, depending on where you live, right? So you're coming over there, and just checking you with your, with this blood pressure cuff and whatnot. And they come in with a team of paramedics and this huge machine, and they come over there and they start hooking him up, and they start assessing, and they see that right then and there, he's in the middle of a huge heart attack, like a massive heart attack. There is a certain artery that when it gets clogged, when a person has a heart attack, it's known as the widowmaker. Widowmaker. Why? Because people don't survive from that. It's very hard to detect and very hard to come out of. But they happen to have a specific machine that detected it, and as they were actually like, they were plugged into him, and while they saw the heart attack, and he went unconscious, and they were able to immediately go and shock him and bring him back. And he was able, he was brought back to, Baruch Hashem brought back life. Obviously, he went and, checked through it. The next day, or the following, days, the wife was thinking about it, be like, wait a minute, like, how did this happen? And she thought it was right after Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av, there's very famous, the Chafetz Chaim Heritage Foundation, videos that, that everyone watches. And in there was a very, very particular message that, sort of like a forgiving type of message. Like if someone hurts you and someone harms you, forgive them. That night, so his situation happened 3:30 in the morning. 1:30 in the morning, the Rebbitzin gets a text message. And in there, it's something that it could go really bad, like something that really hurt, and it could really affect her, and it could really, cause some issues. And she decided, because of the video that she watched, or because of the Chafetz Chaim Heritage Foundation video, she decided she's going to go and forgive this person. And later, she was thinking about it. She's like, how is it that my husband got saved? It must be a merit of the forgiveness that I went and I had on this person at 1:30 in the morning, 2 hours prior to this incident. So she decides, like a good Jew, Hakarat Hatov, let me call the Chafetz Chaim Heritage Foundation and tell them, that they helped save my husband's life. So she calls up the organization. There's a guy that answers, says, by the way, and she tells him the story. And he's like, wait a minute, you're the house, and like that. He's like, you only know half the story. It's like, let me tell you the other side of the story. He says, the Hatzalah guy that came to your house, he's my brother-in-law. He says, did you ever think about why they had a team of paramedics, at 3:30 in the morning, 30 seconds away from your house? Like, what was going on? He says, let me tell you the other side of the story. He says, my brother-in-law got a phone call a day or two prior to that his son was in sleepaway camp in the summer, and he wasn't feeling well. So they brought him to a nearby clinic. It turned out that he had an infection, and it affected his heart. And the clinic wanted to go and send him to the nearest hospital, because they figured it was something serious and something that has to look at. So the father, which was a Torah member, goes to the clinic and says, do me a favor, send me over your information, your diagnosis. I want to show it to my primary care physician, my son's doctor, and I want him to go and take a look at it. They send over the information, it brings it to the doctor, and the doctor looks at it and says, wait a minute. He's like, this is something really serious. Don't just send it to some Catskill, nothing wrong with the Catskill Mountain, whatever, hospitals. He says, you got to send it to the Philadelphia Children's Hospital. So there's a high-end children's hospital there. That's where you got to go. So the father calls back and says, I want my child to be transported to the Philadelphia Children's Hospital. So the clinic goes and says, we're not paying for that transport. He's like, we have a hospital right over here. Why should we schlep? It's about a 4-hour drive. Why should we schlep 4 hours, to drive him when we have the hospital right over here? So the father makes a few phone calls and says, you know what? I'm going to transport him myself. He brings out a Tzala, truck and does a transport. When the doctor, when the father tells the doctor about this, the doctor says, listen, you're transporting your son, you have to have a team of paramedics with you. Because just in case, God forbid, something goes wrong, and you have to have a very specific machine that's very advanced that detects certain things in the heart, certain anomalies in the heart in case, God forbid, something goes wrong. So he says, fine. He gets the machine, he gets a team of paramedics, and they drive from Lakewood to the Catskills, which is, I don't know, roughly let's say 3 hours. And then they get to the Catskills, they drive from the Catskills to Philadelphia, roughly about 4 hours. And then about 3:30 in the morning, they're on the way back from Philadelphia back to Lakewood. Now, everybody on the bus, on the ambulance, is exhausted. And they tell them, says, listen, exit 89. Exit 89. Make sure you don't forget, we're so to exit. And like, I got it. I'll go and exit it. Fine, I'll do it. Obviously, it gets missed. He goes off at the next exit, or the exit afterwards. And as he gets off the next exit afterwards, all of a sudden they get a phone call on the radios regarding this situation that goes on. And be like, wait a minute. He says, we missed the exit. The house is literally 30 seconds away. It must be from Shammai. It must be from God. Let's go. Let's drive up. So they have a team of paramedics at 3:30 in the morning right outside this rabbi's house, with all this machine. They go up. And they all come out over there with this entire machine, and they go and they save his life. And they completely, and because of that, because of everything that happened, that's how he went and saved his life. The story doesn't end there. It gets even better. That the following days, the owner of the house heard that her tenant that was renting, the rabbi and the Rebbitzin, had a situation. So she calls him up, is everything okay? So the Rebbitzin goes and says, everything Baruch Hashem is okay. I want to thank you that, I didn't have Atzal's number. And I saw on your, speed dial, you had Atzal right over there. And she's like, you don't even know half the story. Let me tell you the other half of the story. He says, we bought new phone systems for the entire house in Lakewood. But then I wanted to buy another new phone system for a house in the country. But for some reason, it didn't work out. I couldn't go and buy the new phone system. So I figured what I'll do is I'll detach all the new phones that I put up at the house in Lakewood. I'll bring it up to the country. And when I come back, I'll put my old, another new phone system in there. Meanwhile, I took my old phones and I plugged them back into the Lakewood house. My new phones do not have the speed dial of Hatzalah. Only my own phones have the speed dial of Hatzalah. So somehow God made it for like a few months that I would not be able to buy a new phone system, that I would be able to bring it to the country so that you would have the old phone system, which would have that number, the speed dial for Hatzalah. But it doesn't even stop over there. The son that they transported, there was no even heart issue. It was all false alarm. It was no even issue with that. So meaning what happened? That God orchestrated everything to happen. That this rabbi had to go through something, but he's not going to get harmed. Meaning that God controls if it's something that you need to go through, then you will go through. If something that you don't need to go through, you could be in the most suburban area, in whatever it is, God will send a team of paramedics with the most advanced equipment to go and save you. But again, you can have people that are in the hospital that God forbid go through a heart attack and they die, and somehow it was missed. Why? Because everything happens directly from God. God oversees every single iota, every single thing that happens.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.